And I said he started to cry. And that thin veneer of lack of knowledge, ignorance, I like to call it, of holding on to something that is foolish. If you see the kind of things of what people are really, and it's not in the movie, and you know of what they do, there is no reason to think that those people shouldn't be put to death. You want to get a priest in there or a minister in there to try to get them saved? Great. They're probably not going to get saved. You know what I did when Carla Faye Tucker got born again? Carla Faye, I'm a born-again Christian. I'm a minister. Mm-hmm. Carla Faye Tucker got born again. I mean, really born again. She really got changed. You know what I called? I called up Bush's office, and I spoke to the secretary. I said, I identified myself. I said, because I felt if he does this, if he lets her off, which I wouldn't mind her in the natural being let off of that and allowed to live. But I thought if he lets her off, it is going to open a Pandora's box of prisoners screaming that they need to be let off because of their jailhouse, religion. And I said, I hope he's not thinking about doing that, which would make a precedent for other of these people to follow. She's you know what she told me? He has no intention of doing that. I said, good. She had killed somebody in an axe murder thing with somebody else, And so it's like I told my wife, she is a born-again Christian. Let her go home to be with the Lord. But penalties must be paid for heinous acts. And I will tell you that a lot of the families of victims, not all, but many, if not most families of the victims, they can't find a sense of closure while those people are alive. Their deaths do not bring their loved ones back. It's not about that. It means they don't have to hear their names anymore. There's not any appeals going on. They're not talking in the press. There's not a documentary on them. There's closure. And I think first and foremost, but besides it being the correct thing to do, it's a tool of the Justice Department. I think it's fair. I think it's morally correct. But besides all of that, my sympathies are always going to go with the families. And most of the families of murdered victims, they have closure once the people that murdered their loved ones are no longer above ground. Their loved ones aren't above ground. They don't get 3 hots in a cot. They don't get medical care. They don't get to laugh. They don't get to watch TV. They don't have sex. These people do. They get whatever they want in prison. They get drugs. They get whatever they want. They're put to death. It's equal, and there's closure.
It's funny when you talk about the religious awakening aspect of it. I always go back to Son of Sam, and I always just kind of laugh about that Son of Hope thing. Because that's number one, I don't buy it. And number two, he shouldn't be around anyway.
Oh, no, I absolutely don't buy it in his case. I do buy it in Carla Faye, Tucker's place. I believe that as soon as she died, her spirit went right up to God. Everything's fine. But not in his case. In fact, I had a girl get mad at me once on a radio program. I was talking about Bundy, and they asked me about conversion and all this stuff. And I'm explaining this and on the radio show about this conversation I had with this girl. She wasn't actually on there with me. And she was a Christian, I was a Christian, and she was talking about how great it was that he saved. And I said, well, what makes you think any of that is valid? And that kind of put her on edge right there. And I said, listen very carefully to me. Everything that he ever was, he still is. That desire in him to commit those murders, still there. And in his case, unlike Carla Faye Tucker, I never sensed that any of it was real. And outside of Carla Faye Tucker, I don't think I found anybody except the possibility, and it's only a possibility, that Tex Watson. And, I will add one more. That other one in the Manson thing, that Susan Atkins. I can't remember her first name. Susan Sharon. I can't remember.
It was Susan.
It was Susan. Yeah. Okay. I believe she did have an experience, and and she did repent, and she was born again. Great. I think it's wonderful. Probably the same thing happened to Tex Watson. But let me ask you a question. If Tex got out tomorrow, would you allow him to stay in your house?
No.
No, I wouldn't either. Tex wouldn't even come in my house. But I wish him all the best. And that's how you got to look at this stuff.
Yeah, agreed. 100%. Kevin, I've kept you over, and I apologize for that. I know you.
Okay.
You were limited, but I swear I love the conversations with you, and we could talk about whatever for long periods of time, and I love that. But I do want you to plug, and you talked about it briefly, but plug your new book, and, of course, tell everybody where you can buy your old books, too.
Sure. Okay. Well, I've got, I think this one that's coming out is my 12th book. Most of them, of course, are true crime. I'm basically a true crime writer. I got a couple books on history, personality study of George Armstrong Custer that came out back in 95, and then a full biography of Custer that came out in 2013. But you can obtain my books. All of my books are in ebook, trade paper, or audio. You can get them through Amazon. The book that's coming out in early 2018 will be from Exposit Books, which is an imprint of McFarlane. You'll be able to get that as soon as it's released at all Barnes and Nobles across the country, as well as on Amazon and wherever. And again, that's I'm kind of seeing that as a rather unique book. It's a book that I always wanted to do, but I never did, and I never knew when I was going to be able to do it. So I decided after this last Bundy book, no, now's the time to do it. And I did some checking. I don't think there's been anything written like that a book totally devoted to murders that occur through an unlocked door, through unlocked windows, and through just, unfortunately, some carelessness on the part of the people. Doesn't mean if a person locks their door, they're not going to get murdered, but many murders do occur because of a lax that is going on there. Anyway, so that comes out in early 2018, and then I'm working on a book now, which I can't really go into, but because I usually keep that stuff pretty secret until it's time. But it's interesting, and it has a excuse me, a Kentucky connection. It's having to do with a homicide, and yeah, and then that'll be out probably, Lord, I don't know, even when I'll be finished with it sometime next year. So hopefully maybe by the end of the year, by the end of 2018, then that will be published. And then, it's just one thing from there. I never know beyond what I'm doing currently. I rarely know beyond what I'm doing currently to what will be next. But I encourage people, if they're interested in those cases, those Kentucky cases, to get Unnatural Causes and Kentucky Bloodbath. And most people know me for my Bundy books, but if you're listening to me for the first time, I've written an in-depth biography on Ted Bundy called The Bundy Murders, Comprehensive History. Second book in the trilogy was The Trail of Ted Bundy, Digging Up the Untold Stories, and then the last one was called The Bundy Secrets, which is a republication of the actual, the best parts of the actual record, as well as a chapter on new information that came out from people that knew Bundy. Very fascinating stuff. Most of these people have never talked to anybody before. Some have, but most have not. The Trail of Ted Bundy was the same thing. There was a lot of Mormon people that opened up and talked to me who were friends of Bundy. Really, really interesting information about Bundy that had never talked to anybody before, book writers. So it was interesting. In fact, the one fellow that worked with me on that book, he was offered a lot of money by one of the tabloid magazines right the day or so after Bundy was put to death to tell his story, but he said no, he wasn't interested. So 20 years later, I come along and he likes me, so he gives it to me for free. But anyway, but like I say, Amazon. Also, I write primarily these days for Wild Blue Press, and so if you go to wildbluepress.com, I'm one of the authors there, and you can see all my books there. And also, I write crime blogs, and they're all archived. And you can do two things. You can go there and find out what I have there, Or if you go to my Amazon page, where if you bring up any of my books and go down, you'll see my picture, and you click on my name, takes you to my Amazon page. Not only will you see my books, but all the things that I've written lately, and even going back for a while that are now archived, are there at that site. And so you can click on there, and it'll take you right to Wildwood Press or wherever.
Good deal. Well, Kevin, let's see. Okay, so you said it's going to be your 12th book. So we've done 4 shows together. I've got 8 to go.
There you go. There you go, Daddy-O. Yeah, you'll have to have me on back through. I expect the Through an Unlocked Door to be exceedingly popular. And
I do too. And what's funny is you've kind of like teased it. And I don't know if you realized you were doing it, but you didn't tell us what the book was about, and this is your practice, and that's cool. But it's funny because you've talked many times about what happens when you leave a door unlocked and that type of thing. And look, here we go. So obviously, maybe I should.
So you've heard me before.
This one.
You've heard me before. Well, I tell you what's interesting is I'll tell you this story if you have time before I go. Or do you have time?
Yeah, I have time anytime. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, cool. In the preface of the book that is about ready to come out is Through an Unlocked Door. I talk about the killing of a police officer here in Louisville back in, I think, around 1967. His name was William Meyer. And he was there were some people that had robbed the A&P grocery store, which was on Bardstown Road at Gardner Lane, the Gardner Lane Shopping Center. And he had cornered these men. He had chased them, the police officer, to a building catty corner from the Gardner Lane Shopping Center. And there were 4 of these men, and one of them snuck up behind him while he was, I think, holding a gun on 3 of them. And they shot and killed him. And I was just, I was 12 at the time, and I had just read a year or so earlier at 10 my first true crime book. So I was interested in the case. And I asked my father if I could go down there and sit in on this trial a little bit. He said, yeah. He said, you can do that, but you can't move, and you got to stay there and wait there, and I'll come get you at lunch, and then I'll take you home later. And so at the age of 12, I could have been 11, I can't remember. It could have been 66. I think it was 67. But anyway, I got to watch these men. And I kept thinking, why would you kill somebody like that? And then a number of years later, I ended up going to school with this dead officer's son. And when I found out his name was William Meyer, I said, are you any relation to the police officer? Yeah, that was my father. But in doing this book, since I wanted to write about that in the preface, I found out that I guess most of the men are dead now, but one of them is still alive in a Kentucky prison. These people have he's never gotten out, and he's still there. And I just thought that was interesting, kind of like coming full circle with that, because I'd always remembered that crime, and I'd never written about it. But I wanted it had such a profound impact on me because I was so young, and watching these killers sitting in those big captain chairs, that people have in court, just listening to testimony and stuff like that. And I'm looking at it thinking, how could you do something like that? But then, I'm a kid. And I'm not, I'm understanding evil, but I'm not understanding why people, end up doing that. So it's the age-old question, isn't it?
Yeah, everything seems to come full circle in your life, though. You know what I mean? With the crime book that you saw and your dad's library there or bookshelf.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
And here we are. But, obviously it's been a good run.
It has. And it hasn't stopped, and I'm going to keep writing books.
Keep on doing it. We'll keep on having you.
All right, man. I really appreciate it.
We'll be talking to you soon, Kevin. You take care, and like I said, everybody go hit up Kevin, get his books, go on Amazon, all the other stuff, too. Kevin, thanks again.
All right, thank you. We'll talk next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. And that was Kevin M. Sullivan. The M stands for Maurice. I had to ask him that last time he was on, which is funny because I have a friend that's named Maurice. I think the only other Maurice I know in this world, other than, I've seen a couple running backs with the name Maurice. What's up, Vic? Are you still there, buddy? Maurice Claret is the one that comes to mind.
Yeah, he's a bum, but I know 2 Maurices myself.
Oh, you do? See, I know Maurice, who's a Lions fan, who you also call a bum.